Hey everybody, this is Devil Dog underscore 88. Let's have that conversation today. So today I want to talk about DNA, not because I'm an expert on DNA, because I'm not. I'll be the first one to tell you. But looking at some information about DNA, it's very important to understand how long this case may really take. TJ's in the house. Good morning, DD. Good morning, TJ. The other thing I would want to talk about today, and they're not necessarily sexy topics, but the idea is too much coverage on Nancy Guthrie in the media. Could that help or hurt the case? What are the pros and cons? So that's all I want to talk about today. Like I said, it's not necessarily a sexy topic, but it is a topic that really needs to be discussed because I think that we could end up finding ourselves waiting for something a lot sooner than what's probably going to be delivered. Tammy, dog lover, just found you. Thank you for your service. You got it, Tammy. Thank you. So the conversation is just that. Let's start off with what exactly does the DNA, what does it mean, the DNA, as to how it plays out in this case with Nancy Guthrie? Hi, dog, says Paige. So the first thing is the DNA that they had sent to Florida and that they have also sent to Virginia to the FBI. The same DNA. Remember, it went first to Florida. Paige, Devil Dog just sent one gift membership. Thank you, Paige. Appreciate that. Awesome. Thank you. So the DNA, literally, that they originally nano sent to the lab in Florida, right? That DNA that was sent to Florida is the same DNA that 100 days later or 90 some days later was sent to the FBI. Okay? So that's very important. And here's why it's important because time is always of an essence in this type of case. Okay? Time is of the essence. And waiting almost 100 days to get that DNA back, literally from Florida, just to send it to the FBI, only for the FBI now to send that DNA to another place because they don't have the capabilities for this hair follicle that doesn't have the root. You got to know that because that's very important in this. Paige just gave Tammy Dog Lover a membership. Congratulations, Tammy. Welcome in to the channel. Groundsky, good morning. Tina's in the house. Hello, Tina. So the topic we're talking about, there's a couple things. Right now we're discussing the DNA and what it really means on the longevity of what we're going to be looking for. So the biggest issue is really there's several concerns. It's going to take a while. In all honesty, it's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight. That is a fact. Now, the basic lab of doing the DNA is anywhere. If, like, let's just say they're doing any type of testing, it's just going to be a simple, possibly a few days to several weeks. Okay, a few days to several weeks. That's how long it's going to take if it was just basic DNA. Okay, but you got to remember this is a hair follicle that was taken, right? That was missing the root. And the root is a key thing because without the root, it used to be there's nothing that they could do to get that information without a root. Okay. But now they have a lab, and I do mean a lab, one that actually has done some groundbreaking uh, uh, testing that now can actually test a hair follicle without the root. And then through genealogical methods, are able to try to narrow it down to who a suspect could be. And you need to understand that because here in my mind too, I'm waiting to hear about DNA, right? We're waiting to hear about, for example, the DNA dealing with dealing in California. Okay, that's a little different because they have DNA there, right? But here you don't have much other than a hair follicles with maybe a little bit of blood somewhere else that was gathered, but you also have that hair follicle only having no root. And that's hard to do. That's very time consuming. So the basic time frame on the DNA is going to be anywhere from just, few days to a few weeks, couple weeks. Okay. But then you go to the snippet. A snippet genetic genealogy profile usually takes 2 to 8 weeks. And that's pretty much it's just basically things that they find that they're able to process, but it's going to take a little bit more time. Okay, not a lot of time, but a little bit more time. Probably more time than we care to wait, right? Because the reality is, in this world, people want results and they want them fast, right? There's no patience here, so you need to understand that. And then you have genealogy research and family tree analysis. If they have to do that, use the genealogical tree, you know, to find out how they can comprise that DNA. And what by that I mean like going to 23andMe or any type ancestry, and they're able to try to link that hair follicle. Now you're talking months. You're talking months. You're not talking weeks. You're not talking days. You're talking months. And of course, the last one is the complex one, and it's a degraded sample. Okay. And this degraded sample is kind of like what we're dealing now with the DNA, because the degraded sample is basically exactly what we have. We have a DNA missing the root. So there's a lot of complications in that because now they have to parse all that information, separate all that information. Literally, they have to be able to, for better lack of words, they got to piece it all out. And if you know anything about DNA is very, very precise, but it's also very tedious. So in doing that, that's what I believe we have is a partial DNA. And with this new testing, they're going to have to use the Ancestry, the 23andMe, any type of thing like that to be able to figure out how they connect and if they even connect, right? But you got to remember that could take up to a year, if not more. So in the genealogy, doing the checking for DNA, it could go from days to a couple of days to a couple of weeks. It could go from a few weeks to a few months. It could go from months to several months. And now the end part is when you have a complex DNA like what I believe this is when it comes to the hair follicle, because it doesn't have the root. The root is the key. The root is what stores all the information. Okay, until this one individual, this lab came up with how to go ahead and process it even without the root. And that's just breaking, here probably within the last few years. It hasn't been long since they started using it, but it has worked and they have solved many cases with it. So the reason this is important is because here sometimes we'll be talking on the chat and we'll be having this conversation and we're all really just eager to wait for the DNA, right? We're eager. We're like, hey, we got to get it. We got to get this DNA. You know, we want to know what's going on, what happened. Whose is it? And what we fail to realize, or what sometimes we forget, is that, you know what? Probably not going to see it anytime soon. So that old theory about don't hold your breath, literally, it may take a while. Hell, it may take over a year. It could take over a year. Now, does that mean that they can't figure it out? No, that just means that's just the process. That's the process when you're dealing with very, very sensitive micro information, trying to piece it all together. It takes a while. It literally takes a while. J Lab in the house. What's your hat? It's the 250th anniversary of the United States Marine Corps. Semper Fi. So, and I'm not an expert in this DNA. So understand, I'm just a layman trying to understand the concepts. But I know that we talk a lot about the DNA. We talk a lot about, God, we can't wait till we get it. When are we going to get it? Well, I'm here to tell you, it may take a long time before we get it. And somebody asked me before, I don't know if it was Groundsky or if it was Soaring Energy, but somebody had asked me before the other day and days, do you think this will be solved in a year? And honest, truly, when I did some looking into this, it's very possible no. It is very possible that it won't. Could it? Sure. And if it doesn't, is it like out of the norm? Did somebody try to hide something? No. It's a long process. It's a lot of long process. And I think we all need to be ready for that, because the reality is that if we're not, we're gonna start coming up with all these different scenarios as to why we can't find, or why they can't figure it out in the days and weeks ahead coming. Well, it's because it doesn't necessarily happen like that. It takes a while, everybody. So I'm preparing you now that we may not hear something for a long time. So don't hold your breath or you're going to pass out. Simple as that. Okay? The hair follicle that they have and that's the big one, doesn't have the root, which is what stores all the DNA information. Okay? Remember that. And the reality is that with that, they have come up with something to be able to test it without the root. But saying that, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a while, because that's not normal, on their testing method on how they do things. So we're looking, it could be, like I said earlier, a few days to a couple weeks. Then if it's a little bit more intense, you're looking at maybe a few weeks to 8 to 10 weeks. And then you have months. Okay. In the other category, you have months until you get to the very end. Hello, Tina. Until you get to the very, very end, which it could be over a year, because this is very tedious work. So that has to be on your mind. Because if it's not, you're going to think somebody's holding back information. FBI doesn't want to give it. FBI this and that, just like I did earlier. Okay, I wanted to see it now, but after looking into this stuff, it isn't that easy. It doesn't work like that, and that we all have to understand. Otherwise, we're going to be like a lot of people jumping through all these rabbit holes, trying to, play the Inspector Clouseau, and come to find out we know jack nothing. Lisa, hopefully it's not Nancy's hair. Hopefully this could tell by the appearance. Hopefully, no doubt, no doubt, that is true. But even if it's not Nancy's hair, right? Even if it's not her hair, it just doesn't have the root, and the root is the key where all the information is stored. You know what I mean? So if it's not Nancy's hair, oh my God, it'd be amazing. But now it's still a long process because it doesn't have the root, right? But if it is Nancy's hair, then all this goes. It's basically a nothing burger. If that's not somebody's hair that's supposed to be there, it becomes a nothing burger. So no root takes a long time under this newest process they just went ahead and came up with. Now you have to remember, in the past, if you sent hair follicles to be tested, you couldn't get any information if it didn't have the root. You follow me? So it was like we didn't even have a chance to get any information if it didn't have a root in law enforcement when they would run it. So they wouldn't run it because there's no help, there's no root. But this doesn't have a root. So it's going to take a while. And I'm just trying to get you guys to really understand that it's not going to be something where, oh, they're doing this or they're doing that. We want to stay above the fray of that because that's what sends you into all these rabbit holes. Okay? That's why it's important. Like Nanos came out and said, if this information comes back and it doesn't have, if it's a nothing burger, in other words, if there's nothing that they can get information from, then this case is pretty much done and we're going into a cold case. Not so fast, Nanos. Not so fast. Okay, first of all, Carol, welcome in. Good morning, Carol. First of all, the reality is cold cases don't typically become cold cases until about 3 years. So, for Nanos to come out and say that is ridiculous, first of all. First of all, you don't even say that because it could be very demoralizing to the family that are hoping for something, right? It's just, that's just common sense. But we know that Nanos sometimes may lack that common sense, in my opinion. So therefore, we have to take it with a grain of salt. All streamers are on the way to Tucson. So thank you very much, Tiger. Appreciate that. So the reality is that now the idea is that Nanos has started to prepare people in case this is something that it's not out of the norm. Okay, and what I mean by that, to me, in my opinion, he's trying to go ahead and get everybody conditioned in their mentality. Oh yeah, see, Nano said it. He said if there's nothing comes back from this, then it's pretty much done, and it's a cold case. Well, it's not a cold case, at least not for another 2.5. This case started on the 1st of February. In reality, 31st, 1st of February, right, of 2026. So yeah, you're talking about another whole 2 years and over 250 some days left before that thing's going to be considered a cold case. TJ says, but there was other DNA, but it came back to people who had reason to be there. Correct. That speaks volume to me that it was someone who knew her involved somehow. Very possible. That's a good point. That's a very good point to look at it that way, TJ. No doubt about it. It could actually be just exactly what you just said. It would definitely signal that maybe it was somebody that knew the family, right? Because if it comes back to literally, let's say one of the family members, well, that's expected. You're probably going to find that. I don't know if you're going to find that on her pillow. I don't know if you're going to find that on her undergarments. If that hair, I'm not sure where exactly they got that hair from, but if they found it on her pillow, under her pillow, probably anywhere on her bed, then it would be safe to say that that's probably shouldn't be there, right? Just using common sense. Pay says AJ goes live in 10 minutes. Put him on your TV without chatting. Keep dog on your phone or computer with chat. There you go. Multitask. Thank you. So you follow where we're at now. The whole premise is we're hearing that, yes, this may turn into a cold case. I'm telling you, it's not going to be a cold case, not for another probably 2 years. So Nanos needs to get that out of his mind because that's only going to be and sink his own ship. It's going to be the one that takes him down more than likely. And what I mean by that, taking him down, I'm talking about literally not getting reelected because this was a piss poor job that was done in gathering evidence. Lisa said, in my opinion, the perps didn't go near her bed. It's possible. I'm not sure where they got this hair follicle, this piece of hair. If they got it from her bed, and it's not hers, and let's say it's one of the um, family members, well, then we know. I mean, I highly doubt. It's possible that the hair could have fell on in the bed, but it's also possible that it fell because they should have never been on her bed, unless they tucked her in, unless they were able to come out and say, yeah, I always tucked in mom. I always put the blanket on her, and I was always on top, making sure she was nice and comfortable. I mean, they can throw a lot of that information out there, but the truth is, only the family's going to know if that's even viable, right? Or even if some of the family members even did it at all, like maybe T. Maybe T never even did that because it was something that maybe is against that custom, his custom as being Italian. I don't know. It's just something to think about. TJ, thanks. I never thought of that. Good, no doubt. Very good. Very good, TJ. I feel like they need to keep questioning the people they suspect, and eventually something will break. Now, that's really the one you have to do. You have to keep doing the hard legwork. Okay, nothing comes easy. You're going to need to constantly, and I mean constantly, recall people for re-interviews. Say, well, LD has already been interviewed, and Tommaso and Annie and the family has been interviewed. You know what? But things have changed. More information has come out since then. So now you bring them back in and you re-interview them and see where they go, and you ask them those questions on that new information that has come out. You know, whether it's, hey, you made this comment, you stated this, or hey, you were behind the house, you were seen going there. What were you doing? What was It's those type of things. And believe me, law enforcement knows how to do that type of investigating, that type of interrogation. We know how to do that because we've done it. We get it. We know the key signs to look for. The problem is, will they do it? That's a whole different ballgame. But you're trained to do that. You are trained, especially the ones that are specific in interrogations. They get it. They know how to, ask those right questions and then bam, come with a hammer and ask the question that's gonna send uh, send a different reaction to that individual, which is going to be telling as to, man, there's something here. You know what I'm saying? Pay said, right, like TJ said, it almost incriminates them if their hair is family hair. It very well could be if it's in that bed or in that wrong place where they got it. To catch them changing the story. That's what you got to do. You ask these questions that they need to know or they should know, and then you then present questions that is going to get them to think. And then you're going to watch, where their eyes shift to, how they position their head, whether they look at you, turn away, where the eyes go up or down, the shifting of the mentality, your brain, how it operates, the deceiving aspect, or trying to give you the information correct. I mean, there's so many things, everybody. There's not like one thing. There's so many things, and as an investigator, you're focused at it, and that's why they record it. They want to be able to go back and look at it, not just for testimony purposes. They also record it because of the fact that they want to be able to go back and look and see those questions and see what his whole demeanor was, his whole uh, uh, how he was delivering it. What was he saying? Was it something that is literally, you know, we have something here, Houston, type of deal. Got it. Gronsky, maybe she pulled part of her hair at a front door struggle on the inside, says Gronsky. It's possible. We just don't know. Okay, we just don't know. It's very possible that this could be a nothing burger, right? But the whole premise of this DNA is the fact that it's going to be a while. Okay, it's not going to be anytime soon, in my opinion. If we go by the statistics that they have, the little bit of statistics that they have, because you got to remember this is kind of a new thing. This is not something that they've done all the time, not without the root. It used to be if they didn't have no root, it was not good evidence, basically, because they had nothing to test it with. Now they do. And with all these different things that combinate, from the 13 and Me or whatever, 23 and Me, or the you know ancestry or whatever, trying to bridge that also is going to play a big role. True, Gronsky, but some reason I think the hair came from her bed. That's hearsay. Yeah, we don't know where. I mean, I don't know where it came from. I have even heard something about they found a hair strand in the restroom. You know, I I don't put no stock in it, but I had heard that. So now I'm going, really? Well, who you go to the restroom every day, so why wouldn't it be her hair? Just saying. April's in the house. Good to have you, April. So the time frame, once again, if this is just a basic DNA testing, yeah, you're looking a few days to several weeks. If it's just a basic DNA, listen to that, few days to several weeks. If it's creating an unusable SNP, as they call it, where they have to use genealogy and profiles and all that time, you're looking at probably 2 to 8 weeks at a minimum. And then if this is genealogy research and family tree analysis, that's where your 13 and Me, that's when your ancestry comes into play and all that. Now you're looking at weeks to months. Okay. And then if the more complex thing that there is, if it's complex or degraded, this hair, which in this case it doesn't have the root, so it's definitely going to be complex, and separating all the fashions of that, yes, you're looking at a year or more. So don't be waiting for an answer anytime soon. If we get an answer, great, great. They could come back tomorrow and say, hey, we got an answer. I don't think so, but they could. They could expedite it and try to speed it up and all that. But hey, this stuff it's meticulous and it takes time. Literally, it's meticulous and it takes a lot of time. You got to remember that. Whatever you hear from this live, just know this: it's not going to be, or it's probably not going to be that the FBI doesn't want to give you something. It's going to be that there's nothing they can give you. Okay, there's just nothing at this point until they actually get everything out. That's why I didn't like, and it rubbed me wrong when Nano said that he was going to, if this comes back as a nothing burger, then well, this is going to be a cold case. That's the wrong message to send, not just to the people, not just to the people searching, not to the people that are out there trying to help financing, but to the family. You just don't say those things. I don't care if you think it's the truth or not. As a sheriff, as a leader of a department, you do not say that as a respect to the family. And he says FBI isn't much better than Nanos at this moment. That's true. Hey, these dudes have turned against the FBI director at the moment. FBI dudes have, well, you know, I mean, here's the thing. I have FBI agents that have been around for a while, right? And you have an FBI who just came in there. And now you have FBI individuals who now, as you put it, Paige, have turned against the FBI. Well, FBI director, well, what would make sense to me? I'm going to probably go ahead with the people with experience rather than people that don't have no experience. I mean, hey, qualifications is very important. If you don't have the qualifications and you're out there, you're no different than Nanos being a sheriff, that he probably should have never got, in my opinion. Okay, getting a position that he has no business having because he doesn't have that it factor. He has time in, but he also has a lot of baggage. Just saying, you got to call it for what it is. Don't sugarcoat it in here. You know, the director of the FBI has many flaws. You know, and if his people are turning against him, it's probably because there's a lack of faith in that individual. Just saying, for whatever that's worth. Right? No, no, no. We're not going political. I'm just saying that's a very good point. That's a very good point. But now you have, what do you have now? You have the FBI director and you have Nanos, and they're all backbiting each other. One's calling basically one out on some things, the other one's calling them out on some things. And when they go and talk to the assistant director, right, in Blanche, Todd Blanche, what does he say? We're not going to get into this. We need to all work together. I mean, he said the right things. Make no mistake, Todd Blanche said the right things. We need to just all work together and help each other out. That's what we need to do. When he was asked about the back and forth between the FBI and Sheriff Nanos, so that at least was well said by Todd Blanche, in my opinion. Because here's the thing: you people start fighting amongst yourselves, nothing happens, nothing gets resolved. And who pays for it? The people that literally are the ones that were taken or hurt or maimed or unalived. But good question, good point. Moving on along. I support the FBI staff 100%, not the director. Okay, moving on. Nanos doesn't have respect. Doesn't have respect for anyone, in my opinion. Oh, I agree with that, TJ. I mean, my God, they took a confidence vote of him, and 241 said to 0 said they have no confidence in him. I mean, that kind of speaks volume. Justin investigates. Hello, people. Mark the Shark is there in Tucson on 1 hour. Okay, sounds good. Thank you for letting us know, Justin. Appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Lisa Page, agree, TJ. He acts like the public is his adversaries and like he's superior in a negative, off-putting way, not in a confident way. Very true. April, the thing is, Nano kept FBI out 4 days, in my opinion. A lot could have been done in 4 days with the FBI involved. True, and that's what the bickering was back and forth. The bickering back and forth was, hey, we were shut out. Now they did have people that are on a task force that are what you call, I would call it in the military, fapped out. In other words, they take a couple officers, or in this case, a couple of deputies, and they put them with another group of people, and they are like an investigating team, so to speak. So when stuff like this happens, they have at least people to start it up. And they do have an FBI person. It's just the way he made it sound was like, oh, yeah, they were all involved. It was just somebody that was affiliated and attached to them. It's almost like we're going to lend you a couple people so they can go ahead and not just learn from the FBI, but they can go ahead and actually, there are guys, but they're going to be under your care, if that makes any sense. Exactly, Lisa. TJ, you are right, April. 4 days is critical. Listen, and something like this, you have 48 hours to get your information and get your shit together. And if you don't do it in that first 48 hours, man, everything starts dropping. Statistics say they drop big time. You're already looking at this is a 92% chance, literally, that this is a family member. This is according to a doctor, I forgot his name, I can't think of his name, but he's been on many of the shows that has been saying, yes, this is a 92% chance that this person literally was literally in this manner was abducted or was taken or was unalive or altogether by someone that they knew. Hey, Justin, Sleuth Intuition is also here. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. We are all going to multitask and watch both. So that's the importance, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you all, because I didn't want you guys to get caught up in thinking that we're going to hear something in another day or two. And it's possible. It's possible we could. They could definitely come out with something later, talk about what they found in A&T's car, right? They had it for like 40 some days, 39, 41 days, something like that. That's just unheard of. They took the telemetrics out. They were able to download the modules because they couldn't get it earlier. So it's very possible that they had this for a long time for that reason. Which then begs the question: why did they have to go through all that hard trouble? Little Red B, good to have you, Little Red B. I actually chat with AJ from my phone while chatting with Dog on my laptop. Thank you can be streamed 3 for me without chat. So now we have the idea of, and I don't know who's all really talked about this DNA and broke it down like this, but that's really what it is. All I did is look up the information to be able to give it, because I too was becoming antsy, wanting to know, when are we going to see something? And then now I'm going, oh God, it could be a long time. A long time. So that's what's up with the DNA. Don't hold your breath is the main thing. If you take anything about the DNA, don't hold your breath, because it could be a while before we hear anything. Yeah, they're all there, Justin. They're all there. They're all going to be at Nancy's front, and doggone live with I think even 857 might be there with JLR and Sleuth and Alex, and yeah, uh, even the Juice is going to be there more than likely. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people there, a lot of streamers there, should I say? Justin DGL is there to Tucson tonight. DGL was there yesterday. He was there yesterday. I saw him there yesterday. DGL was there yesterday, so he's already there. Little Red B, good morning, TJ. So that's what we're looking at on the DNA. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is literally the idea that when we start looking at the question, is it, what are the pros and cons to having this case? I don't want to say tried into public opinion, but more like out there in the ethosphere by the public, by media, all media, you know. And the question is, does it hurt or does it help? And there is some different ways to look at it, no doubt about it. April Sewellen gonna be flipping them all back. Yeah, no doubt, right? So you gotta know that some of the things you know can help and some of the things may not help. I mean, literally. The idea that you're going to have, the common sense thing that you're going to have is you're going to have a lot of speculation, right? When this is plastered in the social media constantly, not just social media, but in the news media constantly, you know. And yes, Brian Enton, he's considered the media. So when this is plastered all the time, you're going to have a lot of different takes. You're going to have a lot of different variables. Okay. You're going to have a lot of different spin. You're going to have some talking about this and some talking about that. Okay. You're going to have a lot of information. Okay. And the problem is that because you have a lot of different opinions and takes and whatnot, you're going to have a lot of different theories and opinions and things that you may say could be let's talk about the negative thing. The negative thing is that there's going to be so many theories out there that no one's going to know what the hell to go with, right? That's the downfall. The other downfall is that people are going to make their own speculations and create their own narratives. Okay. The other downfall is that possibly people are going to go ahead and give the perps information to who's there, who's not there, who's going around, who's still out there, and they could stay away from this whole debacle, just stay out of sight, out of mind type of deal. That is possible. So there is a lot of things that could literally hurt by having this conversation always, okay, as far as giving inputs, because it throws a lot of shade and differences that then people just become confused and they take whatever anybody says as factual when it may not be factual. April, I have only heard one hair and blood on Port's DNA. I find that hard. Oh, I find it hard to believe too, April. I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of DNA, and we talked about it in our lives. For everything from the porch guy to the mouth light that he had, that he's constantly taking out of his mouth, the saliva that's on that, especially when it's cold. Hell, he probably had boogers coming out for God knows what. I mean, the idea that he had DNA on that light and anything he touched, even though he had his gloves, in his mind he could have thought, because I have gloves, I'm okay. What he probably forgot was, oh, shoot, because these people don't always think like that. What he forgot was, oh man, I'm putting my DNA everywhere with my saliva, right? That speaks volume. April seems a little too clean or staged. That's what I'm thinking, says April. So this could be possible. Or they got to know who it is. That's very possible, no doubt. So those are the downfalls of too much information. Now, am I saying that we shouldn't keep this going to keep the story alive? No, absolutely not. I think we need to, keep it alive for Nancy's sake, for the family's sake, for the well-being of people that live in that area. But I also think that we need to be careful on what we say, because it could send directions to certain individuals. This is why I always remember to say it's your opinion. It's your opinion that this could be this. It's your opinion. It's my opinion that LD is my number one person of interest. It's my opinion that my number two is DC and my number three is T and A. Okay, it's just my opinion. I'm not saying it's factual because I don't know to be factual, but in my experience, I'd be looking at those three from the very beginning, no doubt. Let the fun begin. It's like biker party in Tucson, only it's streamers and the chats. Woohoo! April Savannah on Mother's Day was still asking for help. She did. She did. She did ask for help. She did ask for help. The letter she wrote or she read off, I mean, that's what it sounded like to me. Savannah is backwards in my opinion. I don't know about her at all. Well, I know that she was probably not in the area when this happened. That's probably a safe bet to say. I'm sure we could look into that and realize and find out that Savannah was not there. We could probably maybe do the same thing with the camera. Not saying I haven't done it, but we could probably look at that. Now, there's only two people left in the family as far as immediate family, and that's the son-in-law and the daughter. Now, we know they were in there because they live right close to her, 4 minutes away, 10 minutes to get there because of the roads the way they are, the curves and whatnot. So we know that it is possible, okay? It is possible that they were there because they lived there. So it's fair to say probably Cameron's not, and probably Savannah's not involved in this. But people that live right there, those are going to be people that you want to really look at, unless you can find some charter flight that Savannah took in the middle of the night or Cameron took in the middle of the night to go to Tucson. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? Some things are just logical. Some things are just logical unless you can find those things. April, Lisa, one thing about JLR, people approach him so he may get some good info for community. It's possible. It's possible. He's got a big following. It is possible. Agree, April. We need clues and new info. Well, you need to understand how this works with the DNA because you're going to sit there wondering why in the hell we're not getting information when in reality there is no information to give you until it's processed, right? So that's very important. You know, you got to understand how the DNA works. It's crucial. I mean, I would not be spending my time trying to explain it to you all because the reality it is very important. Otherwise, everybody will be jumping all over the place, you know, finding their baby mamas that committed this crime or little Willie down the street with the one eye went ahead and did this. I mean, the idea is we need to be responsible in trying to understand why the things happen the way they happen. Justin, JLR is all right, but needs to stop put false information out there. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of putting. Um, well, you know that and if that's how you feel, so be it. I mean, we're all entitled to our opinions, no doubt, no doubt. And all I can say is that this is why you all need to really understand how the dynamics work. It's not just about, you know, reading something or hearing something. It's about why you're hearing it, why you're reading it, where is it coming from. It all matters. Everything matters. Justin, that's true. Other streamers have also, says April. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that wholeheartedly, Justin. I agree with what you're saying. You know, if you put out this information because you want a few more likes or a few more people, well, you know, you're not doing Nancy any justice. You're not doing the family any justice. That is fair to say. Justin says, I totally agree. So that's the whole point. That's why understand how these dynamics work. Understand how the DNA is processed. Understand how all that is gathered. Understand how long it's going to take. Because everything else is irrelevant. If you don't know how that process works, your head is going to be so far left, right, east, west, you're not going to know where in the hell to turn to. Good morning, fan, devil, dog, and everyone. Good to have you, fan. So we've been covering literally how important the DNA is and how long are we possibly looking at. Dee sorts it all out here, and that's why he is the best as April. I just try to give you what I think people tend to forget, and I'm not talking about, you know, my peers, other people who have been in law enforcement, you know, my brothers and sisters in law enforcement. I'm not talking about them. But in general, sometimes people forget because they don't understand the dynamics. That's the only thing. No, not to anybody. You're either going to know the dynamics because you've done it, you experienced it, you have went through it, and did it multiple times, or you don't. Right? No fault of anybody. But it's important to understand the breakdown of it because that could literally, you could be the one sitting back going, I get it. I get it. They just came back and said it's going to be another 6 months. What the hell? Oh, wait a minute. Well, that's because they don't have the hair. They don't have the root. Oh, that makes sense because now we know that there's only one lab that does that testing, and it's not the FBI lab. As great as the FBI lab is, that's not the one who does the testing. They have to send that off to the lab, and I think it's in San Francisco. I could be wrong, but I think it's San Francisco who does that testing. You know what I mean? So it's definitely going to be. You really need to understand those dynamics. Now we're also talking, but appreciate that, April. Thank you. Now the other thing on the pros and cons of social media, or the news in general. I'll just say the news in general. You know, too much pounding and too much, you know, hammering can also cause misinformation, can also cause people to really like start really spinning all over the place. I'm not gonna lie, I have heard many people talk about things that I would consider not really valid. I have heard a lot of people say things that, to me, working in that line of work in law enforcement, no way in hell that makes any sense. And then I've heard some people not say anything about any of that because they just don't know, right? It's a little bit of everything. It's a smorgasbord. It's a little bit of everything, and that's what you have to understand. Okay, the last thing you want to do though is put out something that may not be accurate. Now, we did the pros of going ahead and having social media and or the news out there. We did some pros on that, which is you keep the story alive, you continue to try to gather information. Maybe law enforcement hears a couple of things here and there, and then they go, "Wow, we never thought about that." Because believe me, law enforcement don't always get it right either. Um, so maybe they hear something, maybe they take a theory or an idea, maybe they say, "Man, I didn't know about this person." Because they're only going by what they're doing, not necessarily but what everybody else is saying, right? So the idea is that they could very well be literally saying, "My God, whatever." You know, too much information sometimes can be very detrimental, literally, because it makes everybody go everywhere. Okay, but a lot of information keeps stories alive. Okay, they give new perspectives, new fresh ideas, and sometimes law enforcement will go with some of those things and ask those questions. That, for example, what we've been asking: why haven't you talked to A, Y, and Z? Why haven't you talked to this person, that person, that person? Because it only makes sense of this, this, and this, right? We have said that in our live a lot because that's what it is. Okay, now the negatives to it is of too much information is literally Pay says the smorgasbord. April, I hear one thing, it's true, and the next day it gets debunked. So what are you saying makes total sense? Absolutely. The other thing too you got to look at is the fact that the negative things are like I'd like to tell you who I think my persons of interest are because I think it's important to know um, why when I say it, why I say it, and put some context to it. Okay, to break it down so that you understand why I'm saying it. I'm not just saying it just to throw out people's names. I'm saying it, and then I'm telling you that's just my opinion. I don't have any viable facts, but everything seems to be pointing for me, in my experience, in that direction. Okay, because that's what you do when you're investigating. You're trying to make that connection. Okay, now the downside is that people could hear that, and next thing you know, some people are being targeted. Some people are being looked at. I mean, isn't that why LD went to Brianna, Brianna Whitney's crime podcast or crime reporter to do an interview so that he could get people to stop talking like he's the one that did it? Oh, they were just all talking about me. I was getting stares and looks and whatever and whatever. Okay. First of all, you're not a choir boy, LD. You have a rap sheet record. Let's not kid ourselves. But he makes it seem like I am the victim. People are looking at me in a bad way and people are giving me dirty stares. Well, that's probably because you're literally track record. That's probably why that's happening. Everything else is just an added bonus. Okay, in my opinion. But the reality is that yes, he goes on Brianna Witness, and what does he do? He only digs himself many holes deeper. Okay, because of what he says, because of what on how he says it, because of the comments that he makes. So he only hurt himself. Okay, and that tends to happen when people are not truthful, if you will. It ends up hurting yourself. So that's something you need to think about. But the thing, my point earlier, what I was saying was that some people could literally be looked at like they did it. Or some people say, yeah, I think that person did it. Next thing you know, he's getting phone calls and he's getting harassed and he's getting this, and I don't ever want anybody that's not any has anything viable with this case. I don't want anybody to ever be targeted because of something I say. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm going to tell you why I say that, in my opinion, X, Y, and Z is somebody I would definitely be my person of interest, my top three because of this reason. I will never just leave it as in my opinion is that they're the top three and that's it. That doesn't go anywhere with me. Okay, give some reasons why. Kind of like yesterday when Soren Energy was asking me about, and you all remember when he was asking, "What do you think about TNA? How do you think he fits in that role?" Remember when I was trying to leave and call it a day, and you kept asking those questions, which were great questions, by the way. I loved it. But the idea is that you know I had to be very careful on what I was saying. I had to be very responsible on what I was saying. But in the same token, I knew what Soren Energy was getting at. I knew exactly what he was asking or she was asking. I get it. And I think at the end of the day, I think a lot of us see things so similar. We may not realize it, but so similar that that's usually how it is. April, just put my email out there, everybody. With streamers coming back and you hear or see something important, you can send it here to Dee Dee's email. Don't forget also to plug in our channel and all these other streamers when you're on there. Just helps us grow and it helps us become a lot smarter. So that was some of the negative things of it. Was people could be looked at different, people could be harassed, other things are there could be a lot of misinformation going out there without any facts. Uh, Click like and subscribe if you are here and you're not a subscriber. I'm telling you, this is, in my opinion, a damn good channel with a damn good group of people. The other thing is that you could literally people could be hurt, and you don't want that. Yeah, I don't want that on my conscience. Soren Energy, morning DD. I'm a girl and a grandma. Okay, thank you, Soren Energy. Well, you had some very good questions yesterday. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you for letting me know. But that's the whole thing. There's a lot there, and we have to understand that. So, for just as much positive that we have, there is some negatives to this too. And that's where the responsibility comes in. Song in my heart says, if this was for money, why not rob a business? Unalive ransom body disposal is a lot of trouble. Yeah, I didn't think, honestly, in my honest opinion, I don't think they thought it was going to be this much trouble. I honestly think Tabor thought they were just going to come in, take her, and go. Few days, get a payday, release her, no harm, no foul type of deal. That's really what I thought in their mind. I don't know what they were thinking, but that would be my guess. Is that's probably what they thought until they dealt with it and something went wrong, and then everything went to shit real quick. I hope they have nightmares every time they close their eyes. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I agree with that 110%. So those are the things, the downfalls, the pros and the cons as to why too much could be bad, but then again, not enough could also be a hindrance, because then the story starts to fade. So you want to make sure that you do talk about it, but respectfully in a way where you can go ahead and justify exactly what you're saying. Because if you don't, then yeah, you're going to have some things on your plate and your hand as well, you know. And karma's a bitch, no doubt about it. April, they weren't too smart to take a risk of 84-year-old. They weren't professional, none whatsoever. April, I'm still sticking to my belief that these people, for a better lack of words, dumber than a box of rocks, in my opinion. In my opinion, Now, I say that because that's how I see it. I say that because there's always got to be, if you have a plan, you have another a plan B. Something goes wrong, and I think that's where everything fell apart. Is something went wrong, and they didn't have nothing else. They thought it was going to be that simple. They thought it was going to be that easy. They thought this little old lady wasn't going to fight back. My guess is she fought back with everything she could until she couldn't anymore. That's just a guess of mine. But a guess I like to believe because from what everybody said, Nancy was a very feisty little old lady. You know, going by what people know her family knows her. You know, so there is a lot of positives and negatives. At the end of the day, if you ask me at the end of the day, April says I agree. If you ask me at the end of the day, do I think it's good to have streamers out there? I think it's good for streamers to keep the story alive. I think it's good for streamers to be out there if they want to look for her or pass out flyers. Hey, whatever they feel they need to do is what they need to do. No one can tell somebody, hey, don't do that because it's not a good thing. That's not how it works. All I'm saying is that people need to understand that, the idea of, you know, I don't know what really brings a lot to being in front of the house. Just my opinion. I don't know what that really does other than, makes Sue Ellen become very vile and reckless, in my opinion. You know, people all know, now if they want to go and do signs and have signs up and the that type of thing, in by street corners and areas where people can remember, oh yeah, that's right, that lady's still missing. Because I guarantee you a lot of people have moved on. A lot of people have moved on. you know Alyssa, good morning everyone, I miss you all, good to have you. Good to have you, Alyssa. So that's the thing, if they want to do that, I think it's great. I think it's great going out there. Even still, if they want to go out there and check the wash and check the places and just like I said, putting signs, doing little activities, rallies, or whatever you want to call it, in places in town. I think it's awesome. I just think in front of the house, I mean, you could have a few people there. You could have one person there. I know the juice is always out there. I mean, in case somebody comes by, they always say the suspect always comes back to the scene of the crime. So we do know that does happen. Be nice to record something of it, you know. But the idea is that there's a lot of different ways to go ahead and make noise to keep Nancy's story alive. A lot of different ways, you know. I can't tell you what the best way is. I can just tell you for me, this is my way right here, talking to you all, trying to break it down, trying to give you guys what I know and go from there. And if I have the luxury of going down there to that area, so be it. I will. And if I don't have the luxury, well then I'm right here. This is what I can contribute to the cause. Soaring says February 1st, files came out, and then no parking in front of the house went up next day. Iran war started. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. How amazing that happens, right? The Iran war took all the spotlight off of her, except for the people that were there and the people that were trying to make sure that narrative got out. But a lot of people just lost focus and went to the Iran war, and what are you doing? You're competing with both storylines. you know. But every time you go to the gas station, every time you go to get groceries, every time you go anywhere that costs you a hell of a lot more money than what it did, now you're like thinking of the Iran war, right? And anytime you just go to talk about this case, well, obviously, you know, at least you're able to talk with this, you know, you're able to focus on it. So yeah, there's a lot out there, no doubt. April, but if perp is from neighborhood, it could make he or she nervous. It very well could. So what do you do when you're nervous? You make mistakes, but what do you do really when you're nervous? You just don't go by. You just don't come out. You know what I'm saying? You don't go back to that scene, as tempting as it is. So that could be a hindrance. The perp says, you know what? I ain't going anywhere by there. You know why? Because that's all I've been hearing as this is happening. You know what I mean? This is all that I'm hearing as a perp goes by there. And truthfully, the perp wants to go by there because he wants to see, or she wants to see what the damage is, what the ramifications are. But the reality is, it's not that simple. It really, truly isn't that simple. Remember, we have several controlling entities involved: politics, Hollywood, and the M word in Pima County. That is true. That is true. Well said, Soren Energy. Well said. Happy Saturday, Devil Dog. Right back at you, Sleuth Fairy. Thank you so much. J Bug. Good morning, streamers. Want respect, but some don't act very professional outside of Nancy's house. That is true. I agree with you, Jay. I do agree with you. Paige, Marianne, I'm on 2 or 3 chats, so if I miss any comments, I'm not ignoring, just repeat it again. Okay, wait, you missed the whole post before the timing. Okay, hang on a second. February 1st, files came out, and then no parking in front of the house. One up next day, Iran war started. I, that's where I'm at. Okay, I'm still looking. Good morning, streamer. Just respect. We some asked the professional on side of Nancy's house. Slew, fairies. Hey, remember we have several controlling entities. Read that one, Marianne. All right. Well, I'll pick it up on the rebound. If somebody wants to repost, put that. I will read it as it comes again. Also, ignoring politics today. I got this. Good. Man, this is not supposed to be political, and it's not political. I'm not making it, nor is anybody here making it. But sometimes those lines do draw together. They end up coinciding at some point, and you just have to say it and leave it. Say it and move on. Because if you say it and stay there, that's where it gets dicey. Say it how it fits the narrative, and then move on. I ignore people's buttholes just for today. Also, ignoring politics today. Repost if dog actually skips us, please. Yeah, just repost it. Believe me, I'm trying to read everybody's. You all know by now that that's my thing. I try to read everybody's comment because everybody is important and everybody has literally an opinion. So now we know literally on the DNA, you know how long you're going to probably have to wait. And when you have to wait that long, you know that it's probably because of the reason that the idea is that, you know, this is a slow process. This is not a fast process. Not when you're dealing with uncharted territories. And I mean, trying to get this all diagnosed, get this hair follicles get the DNA when they don't have the things that normally you would have that you could just get like real quick, right? So it is a waiting game. That's the downfall to it all. It is a waiting game. Politics may come up in a topic, but we don't go deep. And no, not here. Not here. Soren says, okay, DD, third try. What if the whole thing is a diversion? It's very possible. It is very possible. I mean, could it be a diversion? Hell yeah, it could be a diversion. It seems like every time, I don't want to get to the political aspect of it, but every time something was about to come out, something else happened. Whatever that something is, every time something was going to happen, something else would happen. And you can read it between the lines on that. And you're right. And the fact is that yes, it's very possible. I mean, yeah, it's very possible. That's the best way I can put it without getting into the weeds. Yes, exactly the days the files came out. Correct. That is correct. That's 100% correct. It's always something. But yeah, I don't want to go there because it's going to drag me in. And believe me, I know enough about all that stuff as far as how, I've done my homework. And so I understand all that. I just don't want to get caught up. And next thing you know, yeah, it's just not good. And they tried to end it with the no parking and Iran war started. Yep, that's true. It's a good point, SC. No doubt. No doubt. It's a very good point. But just don't get caught up in the weeds. When you go to the other streamers and you go to other, hey, I like a lot of these streamers. You guys know I like a lot of these streamers. I talk about the ones that I really enjoy listening to because it's just amazing at some of the knowledge they bring or some of the points that they make. And I find it so fascinating because most of, if not all of them, of streamers that are out there have no law enforcement experience, yet they do bring out some really good points, and that's awesome. But in the same token, some are just not as, appealing to me because we're in two different worlds, you know, on ideology and on thinking. We're in two different worlds. So for that, I say, you know, let it be for what it is. Soren says, and she's alive somewhere. Very hope she is, no doubt about it. April, it's a good point. So that's that. Those two things were my biggest things, everybody, was the DNAs. It may take a while. Don't get frustrated. Don't lose your sense of direction. Don't lose and start going into the weeds. Stay focused. We need to stay focused on what is out there because that's the only way you're going to be able to make sense of anything. On the flip side, also, the question was, is there too much news out there that causes people to be confused? Well, yeah. Yeah, it sure is. That's why you got to do your homework. That's why you got to watch, you got to read, you got to look at things and then reconfirm things. And because now with AI, anybody can put something together on a hit piece or something where somebody, no one has the information but the person is coming out from AI. You know what I'm saying. April, we respect all streamers here. We all have favorites and we don't put anyone down in this chat. That's a fact. That is a fact. I like you know a lot of things and never in 1 million years would I think I would see a police chief out in front being exposed like this. I agree. I agree. I agree. But it doesn't bother. I mean, for me, it doesn't bother me. I don't bother me one bit. I know what the things that I've done. I know what I've accomplished. I know what things I have worked in. So yeah, it's all good for me. When people like him are involved, it never comes out. Maybe locally, but not nationally. True. True. Very true. Very true. Very true. Well said. Well said. The fact is that literally, there's that word again, literally. Um, I just think we all have a responsibility to speak of the things that we know about, to regurgitate the things that we're able to, you know, read and ascertain and verify. But no one is allowed just to go ahead and throw stuff out there or interject themselves in the middle of the story because they want to go ahead and put themselves out in front. What the hell does that really do at the end of the day? I hope she's alive, no doubt about it. I really do. I hope she's alive. But that's the thing. We need to understand what the game is at the end of the day. If we don't, then we're just like everybody else. And I don't say that being mean, I mean literally. There has to be a difference between what we do and what others do. There has to be a difference of what we talk and how we put things in context than what others do. There has to be that uniqueness in what we do because that's what separates you from everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Pace says, love is the answer. April, amen. And maybe that's why the reward is 1 million, right? No doubt. And no one has balked about it. Attitudes of gratitudes because they know no one will collect it. I mean, in my heart of hearts, I think that literally, in all honesty, in my opinion, I think Savannah and Cameron really do have an idea on who could be involved or who might be involved. They won't say it, and I don't expect them to say it. I don't expect them to say it. I don't even expect them to act upon it. It's one of those things where you have that feeling and you just say, mom's in a better place. Mom is in a better place. Yeah, it was shitty what happened. It was horrible what she went through, but you know what? Now she's in a better place and that's all that matters. I think at the end of the day, that's the only thing you can say to really justify what has happened. Not so much justify it, but to to move on, to be able to move on, I guess is what I'm saying. Raining here in Ohio. I can't stop thinking about that 9-second Bitcoin call. I'm with you, April. I am with you. I mean, the idea that you're going to send a message to both of A and T, and then all of a sudden go ahead and literally you're gonna call right away for 9 seconds, and then you don't even know who DC called. Like I said, I would think it was probably gonna be T that he called. I can't imagine he would call A. Fact of the matter is that if there was, in my opinion, if there wasn't any involvement, I would go as far as to say, why call them at all? Why not send a message through whatever, through something else, to get to the people that are actually going to be able to pay you what you want? No doubt, April. How can Ellie just ignore or accept that? Move on after a month in my family? That would be crazy. Oh, I agree. Marianne says, I totally agree that Savannah and Cameron know what happened. That's probably why they left, and that's probably why you don't hear them getting together anymore. I mean, in my opinion, and like Nanos and Cameron were not even a thought, but now he's come up with the table. Now he's come up to the table. From the very beginning, says Soren, the church lady called. If it was any, my next call is to Savannah. My next call is to Savannah and Cameron. Where was the last time you talked to mom? I agree. Makes perfect sense to me. No doubt about it. April says, do you think it was a setup call on TNA or a clue leading to him? Oh, I think it was a clue leading to him big time. I think it was a clue leading to him big time. Now, do I think that I don't know if he's involved, but it was definitely a major clue that puts him right dab in the middle of it all. That's what that did. And I could see someone waiting for their money and getting so anxious that they're waiting and waiting and waiting and they can't get it, and they're waiting and waiting and waiting and they can't get it, and now they're like, am I ever going to get my money? And then all of a sudden, you know they just can't wait that long. Follow me? They're very anxious. They just can't wait. I believe that's exactly why that phone call was made. And we've already covered the affiliations on how they might know each other, how they would have crossed paths with each other. We have already covered that. So yeah, that all that phone call did was solidify that, put him right in the dad middle, that you cannot go ahead and just say they're cleared. It's just that simple. In the car while I'm driving to her house, I'm making those calls. I agree. I agree. You mean Annie got over there, called all the hospitals and police, and they came and she called Savannah? You would think the first persons you would call obviously is the police, but the next person you probably call is all your siblings to let them know. And then you could, even if she would have just called Savannah, let's say, and say, "Hey, get a hold of Cameron and let him know too, because I'm going to be busy here trying to figure out what the hell happened with in case the police need any questions to be answered. Get a hold of Cameron, let them know, right?" I mean, that would make sense to me. Or call Cameron and say, "Hey, call S and let her know, so that way she knows I'm going to be really busy. So do that for me." That seems very plausible. I could see that. April says that's my theory. T made the plan and caller was confirming a deposit. That's it. He didn't like waiting. The plan was you would have it on this moment, and that moment never came. So that person got very angsty and said, I got to make sure this person got my message. But more are involved. No doubt. No doubt there's more involved. I said, I always believe there's at least three, maybe even four. Not more than that, in my opinion. Before I call the police and get turned up 100, I call my siblings to say, when was the last. And that's true too. That's a good point. Soaring energy. That's a good point. No doubt about it. Agree 100%, April, about the plan. Also agree more than two. Yeah, I just feel like there's a lot more that we just don't know. There's a lot more maybe on the videos that we're just not seeing because they're not allowing us to see for whatever reasons that is. I can't speculate on the reasons. I just know that there has to be more. And why they cut certain parts out of the video to only give us 9 seconds instead of this seconds, or you know instead of giving us this video, why did they make it the whole 45 seconds? I mean, you can speculate, but here's the thing: for whatever reasons, they felt they didn't want to do that, and that's what causes all the uneasiness, all the things that people have become unassured that law enforcement has their best interest in them. And that's what happens. When you lose faith, that's what happens. Yeah, April, that's true. The phone call made my mind up. I mean, I tell you what, it's hard to get past that phone call. It's hard to get past with LD. It's hard to get past everything he said. it's hard to get back of the inconsistencies that I see involving all that. I mean, yeah, it's hard to get past those three people that I honestly think are people that really need to be interviewed, in my opinion. And it's the video thing that makes me think diversion, how the video looks and the little bit that they gave us. I agree. I agree 110%. No doubt. No doubt. Very well said. Very well said. But once again, I can't stop reiterating. Don't hold your breath on the DNA as far as the hair follicle. That's going to be a while. So just know that now. It's going to be a while. And Nano is covering it for him, in my opinion, very possible. Uh, know that that's exactly, it's going to be a while. It may take a while. And if it doesn't, hey, kudos to them. But if it does, which I think it probably will, we may not hear nothing for the rest of the year as far as getting results back. I know it sounds crazy, but they're literally dealing with crazy situation as far as only what they have to look at, you know. So the other thing is just make know that you can't go into the weeds, man. You go into the weeds, you'll never come out. You'll never come out. And Nano is covering him, in my opinion. It's very possible. And the DNA part, the whole house that they find it one piece of one hair. Yeah, right? It's hard to envision that, no doubt about it, Soren Energy. April SE exactly. It makes no sense. The most riskiest non-conclusion DNA, says SE, no doubt. So that's the thing you got to remember. Look, I don't knock any other streamers for being out there. I think it's great. I think it shows a lot that they care and that they want to be out there. Like I said, I just don't know what being at the front house really does. Searching, I get it. Going out there passing flyers, I get it. Going out there and having a conversation, I get it. And possibly being there to capture maybe somebody walking by, like with a dog. You guys know who I'm talking about. That's a good theory. I just don't know to what expense. MS Mandy, I agree, April. Big clue. Good to see you, Mandy. As he says, and he sends it to Florida just for good measure, right? It's so true. I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. There's so much here. I'm telling you, there is so much information. I know people don't, see it that way. Or some people don't see it that way, but there is a lot of information here. There's a lot to go on. There's more than enough to go on right now to start separating and either pushing people out of the equation or bringing them more closer to the equation. There's so much here. Okay, for me, at least from my opinion, from law enforcement, there's so much here that can still be done to try to clear all that noise out of the way. Ransom was asking Bitcoin. T gets a 9-second phone call about Bitcoin deposit. That seals it for me. You know, I mean, I can see your point. No doubt about it. I can understand that. Marianne, thank you, Lisa. No, I can get it. I get it, April. I get it exactly. You know, I mean, for me, it's all the anomalies. It's everything that has happened with TNA and DC for California. Everything that LD went through, and to be frank and honest, that whole damn circle seems like there's something to play in it. Now, I'm not saying that whole circle's involved. I'm just saying, man, there's a lot of people that need to be talked to, and I don't know if they will. As he says, I still want to know what is the glitch that she was reported missing the night before on Saturday night at 5 p.m. on the Pima County website. Yeah, I have no idea. That is, Yeah, I have no idea. I think he missed my post, says Marianne. Thank you, Lisa. Is that the one? Thank you, Lisa. Because that's the only one I see so far. And then I totally agree that Savannah and Cameron know what happened. I thought I said that one. So I don't think I missed anything, but okay, well, your posting come up. I think you missed my post. And then you said, thank you, Lisa. That's the next one I see. Right after Soaring Energy. And then as I still scroll up, there is no more. The only other one that's left is the one that says, I totally agree with that Savannah and Cameron know what happened. And then if you keep going, I can keep going further and further and further into the abyss. And yeah. Oh, here's one. Yes, you are Lisa. So yeah, I'm not sure what I missed there, Marianne. Maybe YouTube just put a stop on it. You got to know how YouTube works. YouTube shit, laughing out loud. Yeah, I just went through the whole thing, everybody. J Bug, I'm looking forward to the streamers going to mines to search. April, Marianne, I don't see it. Can you repost it? Yeah, I don't see it. We're waiting for you to repost it, Marianne. Jay, me too, says Paige. Repeat it, Marianne. It's easier. But we're just waiting on you, Marianne, because I would more than happy read it if I see it. But that's what we need to understand is everything that takes place, everything that is going on, and yeah, you know. April says I see it on live chat, not top chat. I see it on live chat, not top chat. Interesting. I don't see it at all anywhere. But Nanos even misspoke. He says he misspoke in the presser and referenced Saturday night that he was out at the house when she went missing. Repeat it, please, M. M, just if you can, just repeat it. We'll read it. April, if A and T arrived at Nancy's, if A and T arrived at Nancy's house at 11 and didn't call 911 until 12, what if they made it look like she did sleep in her bed, put her slippers by the bed? Well, that's the whole point. Yeah, there was almost an hour before she called 911. That was the whole point of why everything sounded so fishy, because there was an hour, and then the theory was, could she have looked around the house, her and Tommaso? Could she have seen everything in a matter of what, 5, 10 minutes at most? Did she walk down the street or road? Possibly, maybe another 5 minutes. So yeah, after 20 minutes, what the hell did you do for the other almost 40 minutes? Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier when we had talked about this. Paige, he's doing the best he can. April, Marianne's post above. Nope. All I got is a no. That's all I see is it says no right after Paige says repeat it, Marianne. It's easier. Go ahead and read out her post, April, or write it out. Yeah, I ain't seeing nothing. I don't know why I'm not seeing it. All I got is it says Marianne no. So I don't know what to tell you. I really enjoy you being here, Marianne. I just can't read it. Yes, Marianne says yes, April. Dee Dee, you just read it. I reposted it. Okay, where you at? Okay. Is that it, Marianne? Oh, hang on. Hang on. Marianne's post. A and T arrived at Nancy's house at 11 and didn't. Is that the one? Call 11 until 12. What if that made it look like she did sleep? It's very possible. Is that the one you reposted? Nanos even misspoke. He says he misspoke in the passer and reference to Saturday night. Okay, guys. I'm sorry, but I just can't. I don't see it. So I read. It's all good, Didi. You answered her. I posted it for her. Thank you. Appreciate it. Sorry, Marianne. It's not me. It's literally YouTube. Paige, that's weird. Barbara, don't fall for it, in my opinion. April, yes, that one. Yay! Confusing yippee. Lisa Page is on timeout for 5 minutes. Marianne, no biggie. Paige, geez. SE, and trying to remove the camera with some flowers is hilarious. They were going in a house for the back through the back. Why not open the front door from the inside and reach around and take the camera? Yeah, it just makes no sense. As he says, and why they don't do that? It's because they needed a video that they made on the porch. Very possible. Very possible. Very possible. All right, everybody. I know everybody wants to jump over on the other channels with everybody out there. Are they all out there now at this moment? Are they all out there this moment? YouTube made the post look too long with your name, Marianne, so I left your name out and just copied and pasted here. Are they all out there now? All the streamers? They are out there at this time? Not yet, though. Okay. Let me know when they're out there and we'll end everything. So that you guys can see the other streamers. Barbara, Didi, I don't remember what channel it was, but a caller said they thought the perp only had 4 fingers on their hand. Ooh, I don't remember that one either, Barbara. I don't remember that at all, to be honest. Um, if anybody has that or knows the video, send it to me, please, on my email. Barbara says that Didi, I don't remember what channel it was, but a caller said that they thought the perp only had 4 fingers on their hand. If you know what Barbara is talking about and who has the video, please send it to me so I can see it. Thank you, Barbara. Appreciate that. SE, gonna be done, bro. Nope. Why would Savannah make it a point to tell us her mother leaves the doors unlocked? I don't know. 84-year-old that would leave my any doors unlocked. I agree. I agree. It's almost like, yeah, it's almost like it was intended. Like, why would you say that? Only to make it more difficult to understand or to process. I don't know. It's a good point though. It's still literally in Tucson. Yeah, I think it's like what, 7 o'clock over there in the morning. Oh my God, SE says, oh my God, I did not say the first sentence in my promise. April, you're welcome, Marianne. It's a yay, more confusion. Yay, hooray. SE, I set the scene. I saw that somewhere too. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember it, but if you guys know where it's at or you can find it, if anybody can find it, please share it to me. If you look at the pic of their hand up by the camera, it does look that way. Like the pinky finger is missing and just a knuckle. I'll definitely look at that because I do have pictures of that, so I will look at that and see. Paige says, I don't believe everything I hear, probably on JLR. I will definitely take a look at it. I do have that picture that you're talking about. Those talking about the person, the perp on the front door, right? When he has his fist closed and he's showing like the where the pinky's at. I'll look at that, see what I can tell. Yes, I do remember that, SE, that the RN said his brother's hand was a claw hand. I do remember that. Barbara says yes. Bill, thoughts? I'd say hi. Out shopping. I'll check it out later. Enjoy your weekend. You too, Bill. Thank you so much. Thank you for popping in, buddy. Appreciate you. Shocked we're not seeing a few more other people in here. There's so many people that we have, but I'm sure that they're probably getting ready to. They're probably sleeping in or something, or doing something, getting ready to jump on the lives. Bill in Toronto, thumbs up. Yes, is Buttercup on the stream? Is Buttercup's on the stream? I don't know. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and end this chat. Let's go ahead and end this live, should I say? I think it was a good one. I think it was a good one because it gave you guys a perspective of the DNA, not to be holding your breath waiting for it because it could be a while, and the pros and cons of having a lot of news coverage on this case. And there's just as many good things as bad things. So I guess you can't really uh, look at it from a negative perspective because there's so many different things that literally could make all the sense in the world there. I mean, it's almost like it's a wash, if you will. April said AJ is searching. Maybe they're watching. I don't see Buttercup, said Paige. So with that, great discussion today, dog. Thank you so much. You got it, Paige. Everybody, I want to thank you guys all for being here today. I probably will come out at 5. Um, Hopefully, I'll come out at 5, and hopefully, I'll see you guys there. Growski says, take care. SE, thanks, DD. Have a great all. And on the DNA Nano has already set up to know I'll come out to nothing, and then it'll be a cold case. True. Marianne, thank you, DD. You're very welcome, Marianne. Great to have you. J Bug, stay safe and many blessings. Bye, friends. We'll see you soon. With that, everybody, always remember it's all common sense. It is all common sense. Semper Fi, everybody. All you devil pups.